Welcome to another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Of course, I'm your host, JJ Kitchen. Guys, for the first time since 1991, the Pitt Panthers are 5-0 and 1-0 in ACC conference play, and also achieved the first win ever for the Pitt program in history, winning down in Chapel Hill against the North Carolina Tar Heels 34-24. Guys, you can imagine, obviously, it's been an incredible season so far. We're going to go a little bit over tonight, the good, the bad, why there's more good and there's actually less bad. Talk about, Pitt potentially at this point sitting at 5-0 and fighting for a playoff spot. The college football playoff is in reach for Pitt. Obviously, winning the conference is obviously the easiest way to get in. But if Pitt keeps stacking wins, the more and more we get to it, I'd say about the 10th game, 11th game of the year, you got to start having that conversation about, hey, where is this team potentially for the college football playoff? Also, too, we'll dive into just the overall fan reaction. So much good, but also so much bad and still so much negativity, which is crazy to think about. And also, too, the players have already started it. Pack the act. This week, Pitt goes against California, coming here to Pittsburgh, obviously at Acrisure Stadium. It's going to be one hell of an atmosphere. It's going to be one hell of a game. I expect the turnout for Pitt here to be pretty good. And I can really, really believe that Pitt will really show up against California. Guys, but as you always know, before we get into it here, the show is sponsored by Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. Guys, you always know, two great Pitt men, a small business. Anytime you can support small business, you do so. But more importantly, when you're going down to your tailgates, if you're having a tailgate at your house or a party at your house, go see Colonial Beer. They have plenty of selections between your light beers, your heavier lagers, obviously your IPAs, and also, too, the Icy Light can with the Pitt logo on it as well. Good sponsorship there. But also, too, the Fake Slide Pilsner, which also supports paying the players, which we will certainly need this year, but also, too, supports Alliance 412, which is a preferred collective of the University of Pittsburgh. Again, guys, go see my friends at Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. And of course, as a new sponsor, Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson. An attorney on your side. Obviously, I know Brian personally. Right now, with many people struggling with the economy and rising costs, they're helping many people and businesses with their debts, and they're offering free telephone consultations to access any and all available options available to them. Also, to anyone who is struggling, no matter what the type of amount of debt that you are currently in. You can reach them at 724-799-8404, and also check them out at thompsonattorney.com. Personally, me, obviously, I use Brian, a very good friend of mine, a guy that I've known for a long time, ever since I was really a little guy. I can tell you this, Brian does a tremendous job, but more importantly, does not look at people as a client, but in terms of people that are not just a number, but they're truly family. He really cares about, one, the overall outcome of what you're going through. Larger law firms only care about really what's really in it for them, only taking care of themselves. Brian is that type of person where he comes from a tremendous family. He's got a tremendous family, but really does a great job in taking care of the client and making them family. So again, guys, go see Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson, tremendous attorney and law firm. If you have debts, if you have questions, free consultations, that's all you need. You can certainly ask him questions anytime you want. Certainly reach out to him again at 724-799-8404 and at thompsonattorney.com. Thompson Law Group and Brian Thompson. Give him a call today. Guys, as you can imagine, again, Pitt 5-0. 5-0 for the first time. 5-0 for the first time since 1991. Even Kenny Pickett himself couldn't do that. It was 4-1 because we had a horrible loss to Western Michigan. Not Kenny's fault, obviously. It was a defense's fault. But guess what? We're 5-0. A tremendous time to be a Pitt fan right now. Very cool, obviously, here. Hail to Pitt over on Twitter. Guys, and again, on WRW Pitt, always in the selection and always in the comments early. If you haven't done so, you're over on X. Head over to YouTube, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. We're growing at a rapid rate, and we're doing a tremendous job in terms of growth because of you, because the show means everything because of you and all the great questions that you guys ask. Guys, also, too, 5-0. Football Hawk, we're actually going to get into this tonight. Hey, JJ, can you explain why local media and some Pitt fans have such a negative viewpoint about Pitt football, even being 5-0? To be quite honest with you, Football Hawk, I even block some people in terms of just how just naive people truly are in terms of how difficult it is. I recently had a football coach down in the SEC. Had unfortunately a loss recently in the last couple weeks. Very good football team, by the way. And the top three, I won't tell you which school, but they're in the top three in the standings right now in the SEC, reached out to me and said, JJ, it is so hard to win football games in college football because NIL has equaled the playing field where there's certain guys on certain teams getting paid. They don't care about winning, but then there's other guys getting paid and they care about winning. And it's truly finding the guys that are really on board with winning at this point. And I got news for you guys. Pitt right now has a bunch of guys that are on board to win football games. Now, in that moment, Football Hawk, I'm okay with people being critical of Pitt. We're 5-0. There's plenty more good than there is bad. I can tell you that. Last year, we were sitting at, 1-4 at this point. It was not a good year overall, to say the least. I can tell you this for a fact. When you look at Pitt, you can certainly be critical of them. I am certainly going to be critical tonight. Again, the defensive line for the majority of the game, besides the fourth quarter and then halfway through the third, I thought was just mediocre. I thought the defensive line was mediocre for the entire first half. The defense only allowed 17 points. So overall, you can be upset about the overall yardage. They gave up 407 total yards of offense against North Carolina. I thought there were more opportunities to where they could have gotten more pressure. I can tell you this, though, on the defensive line, Sean Fitzsimmons returns back to the lineup, starts a game, hasn't played a game or, in over a year. The guy comes out there and easily was the best defensive lineman on the field yesterday in terms of especially D tackles. The second guy up there, personally, for me, was Francis Brayu. I thought Francis Brayu had a hell of a game, was moving people at will for a true freshman. Even Kalijah Cansey, Jalen Twyman weren't doing that as true freshmen. Also, too, Sincere Edwards had a tremendous game on the outside. I thought him and then Jimmy Scott were ones that really were creating pressure. Little disappointed in Nate Matlack, and Chief Borders just continues to be, unfortunately, just nowhere to be found at this point. And then we'll see here going forward if there's someone maybe pops up that maybe Pitt fans have forgotten about, that maybe we'll be playing defensive end here next week or after the bye week. But overall, I think when you look at the defensive tackle room, your top two defensive tackles are Nick James, who we clearly missed for the first half of that game for sure yesterday. Nick James and Sean Fitzsimmons are your for sure two starters right there. Obviously Francis Brayu is your number 3 guy right there at that point. Nakai Johnson would be number 4, but then after 4, it's kind of a mumbo jumbo at that point. I think when Anthony Johnson gets back, he potentially could be number 4, and then Nakai Johnson bumps to number 5. And then obviously you still have the question marks at defensive end, but Sincere Edwards and Jimmy Scott have been playing extremely well. Nate Matlack shows, again, the first 3 games, I thought he had plenty of pressures, and that PFF has certainly talked about that. He's had plenty of pressures, but just not finishing the play. This past week, I just was not very happy with the level of pressure he had, and just almost at times he looked lost. That was something that was a little concerning. But Football Hawk overall, I mean, you look at everything. Even, I had questions about the offensive line in terms of the run blocking. They had one drive where there was just like 6 penalties in a row, which was atrocious. That should never happen in collective college football ever, but it happened. But besides that, overall, this team's 5-0. In 5 games, Pitt has had a 30-point game over 5 times. That's already more. And I'm sorry, the 30-point game 4 times this year. That's already more than last year than what they had with Frank Signetti. That's number 1. Eli Holstein, Desmond Reed are clearly the 2 best players on offense right now. Kanate Mumfield continues to turn it up. Had a tremendous catch. I mean, that's an ESPN top 10 play, how he made those catches. Sensory Lee, I thought, looked really good. Kenny Johnson certainly had his spurts again yesterday, a guy who's going to continue to be really good, especially in the future, a guy who's going to be a big piece to what Pitt does. Gavin Bartholomew with a number of catches, 2 catches that were really big in terms of moving the sticks. If a ball wasn't tipped, he would have had a touchdown pass as well in the first quarter. Overall, there's more to like. The passing game is just clicking right now. The defense in the second half, really halfway through the third and all of the fourth quarter, 3 fourth down stops. 3 fourth down stops in the second half, 4 fourth down stops overall in the game. That was a major progression in what we saw from previous weeks. I thought, me personally, I was extremely encouraged by that. I thought that was a major plus. Kyle Lewis continues to have a damn good year. And I think by far at this point, he is the best overall linebacker in this group. Jordan Bass got some more snaps. He was kind of in and out at times. I would not be shocked if we start to see Cam Lindsey start to get more time. I think Pitt's doing a good job of not burning his red shirt because he's going to be a major future piece in the future. They've already used him one game so far this year. I would expect him to get the next three games overall this year, whether it's, probably games, 10, 11, and 12, probably, if I had to guess. And unless, more games under his belt if there was injuries. But overall, Javon McIntyre continues to play at a high level. He was licking people, especially, too, on a number of fourth down plays. Donovan McMillan playing at a high level. Cruz Brookins playing at a high level. I like what Rylan Gandy was doing. Rashad Battle and Taman Lynham, I liked what they did overall. They had a couple mishaps here and there that you kind of just were like, okay, thank God that play didn't go through. But overall, there's just more good in football, Hawk. To your point, the media, that's why I kind of had that tweet out to 937 The Fan, because during the Backyard Brawl week, they were just pumping down on Pitt and just punching low. And, it's kind of crazy to see that. And I understand, we're in a town where there's the Steelers. Obviously, the Steelers are number one overall. But, Pitt deserves credit. And another stat that was put out today, I think it was Yinzerberg Adam, I think it might have been. Under Pat Narduzzi, 7 of the 10 years, we have been ranked in the top 25 at some point. In retrospect, West Virginia under Neil Brown through he's in his 6th year at West Virginia, has never been ranked in the top 25. They're currently at 3-2 after beating Oklahoma State. They got a couple of tough games coming up, but they lose one more game, they're not going to be ranked at all this year. I just think overall, and I think there was a really good Nathan had a really good follow-up question. How many years have we been ranked to end the year? I think it's been 3 years. 21 and 22, we were ranked at the end of the year in the top 25. Obviously, 11-win season and 9-win season. I think there was one more time, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been in 16 or 17 is when the last time we finished a year ranked. Overall, when you look at this Pitt football team, there is a collective unit that says overall that it's about winning football games. And you see the collectiveness of Eli Holstein continues to grow. And we'll go over some of the stats here at this point. I think when you look at, let's see here. I had it up. If I can pull it up now. Pitt versus UNC 2024. ESPN summary. The notes, obviously, from watching this game, I watched it a couple more times since last night. Got up this morning, had to go to my office this morning for a little bit of work, but I got to watch the game a little bit while I was working and then watch it collectively again with just notes galore through it. Again, there was more positive than good. The defense only allows 17 points. That's a major plus. 7 points came off of Eli Holstein's only mistake of the day. Yes, it was a pick six. It kept North Carolina in the game early on. But overall, Eli Holstein had himself a day. Eli Holstein is the first Pitt quarterback since Dan Marino to win his first 5 games as a freshman in his first 5 starts. That's just tremendous work in itself. I think overall here, when we look at the stats, again, Desmond Reed had himself a day. I mean, you look at the overall numbers here. Eli Holstein, 25 of 42, 60% completion percentage, 381 yards passing. Holy shit. 9.1 yards an average, 3 touchdown passes and 1 interception. So every game this year, so we are now through 5 games, Eli Holstein now has 15 touchdown passes and 3 interceptions. I mean, he's playing out of his mind for a guy who's a redshirt freshman who had no previous experience, and a guy like Bud Elliott from CBS Sports who said he should be playing tight end, which clearly is a total mistake on his end. And he's a Florida State guy, so maybe just give him a little bit of leeway there. Overall, again, on our offensive side of the ball stats, Eli Holstein had the most rushing yards, 10 carries, 76 yards. Desmond Reed, 18 carries for 55 yards. We'll get to more of his stats here in a second. Rodney Hammond had 4 carries for 9 yards. Obviously, they're allowing him to try to get some game time first before you start beating him up a little bit. Daniel Carter, 1 carry for 2 yards. Daniel Carter was in the game, and you look at opportunities to where you really elevate yourself or you fall down the depth chart. He had in the first quarter, I thought, a tremendous play call by Cade Bell. A lot of motion, a lot of movement on the offensive line between the tight ends, but also to the running back sets. It looked really good overall. Daniel Carter in the first quarter, really on the first drive of the game, gets out. Would have been an easy walk-in touchdown. Doesn't turn his head around. They end up settling for a field goal. That kind of stuff gets you less time on the football field because those are plays that you have to make. Those are plays that you have to look at and say, I have to connect on these plays. Pitt continued to move the chains throughout the game. Desmond Reed for receiving yards. I mean, absolutely unreal. Desmond Reed, 11 receptions for 155 yards, 14.1 average, 1 touchdown, had the long 72-yard reception, tremendous reception over the middle. Overall, great schematically to get someone in space, especially, too, when you have a guy like that. Kanate Mumfield had a number of catches. Century Lee. This scheme overall, Cade Bell is, as we've been told through numerous people, that he gets guys open. That has been effective and has been the truth for the first 5 games of this season. And I think he's done a tremendous job. Kanate Mumfield, 3 catches for 111 yards, 37-yard average. Century Lee, 4 catches for 38 yards. Raphael Poppy Williams, 2 catches for 34 yards. Kenny Johnson, 2 catches for 22 yards. Gavin Bartholomew, 2 catches for 11 yards. And Dejon Reynolds, 1 catch for 10 yards. Overall, when you look at this group, I think just collectively, the offensive side of the football is clicking. You know, we came out of a bye week. It was a little bit slower. You had an interception for a pick 6 by Eli Holstein, but that was the only mistake of the day and one that didn't really cost Pitt. The defensive side of the ball was on the field, for a little bit of time, but only give up 17 points. That's under 3 touchdowns a game. I'll take that all day. That'll lead to victory every single time. Jacoby Croswell, 24 of 45. Got 269 yards passing. Good job by the defense to allow under 300 yards passing. 1 touchdown pass. That's it. No interceptions. Amarian Hampton. We talked about him in the preview show that I release on every Friday. Hampton, 23 carries for 106 yards, 4.6 average. Obviously, what you don't want to see there. That's not exactly good. Had a touchdown. Davion Gallus, 6 carries for 28 yards, 4.7 average. Jacoby Criswell on his scrambles, 4 carries for 14 yards, a 3.5 average. And Caleb Hood, 2 carries for -1 yards. Overall, Nate McCollum in the game for North Carolina had 10 catches for 128 yards. He had a tremendous football game. J.J. Jones had a couple catches in there for 36 yards. Bryson Nesbitt, 4 catches for 34 yards. Jonathan Copenhagen, 4 catches for 32 yards. And so on. And Amarian Hampton, 3 catches for 16 yards. So he was really good on the ground for the most part, and then even had some time in the air attack. So overall, I think that collectively, there's a lot more good than bad. Obviously, do you want to see Pitt's defense be able to stop the run at a higher rate, quit allowing major plays and major gap plays? Yes. But they have to stay in alignment. They just haven't been doing that. Also, too, in the middle, Sean Fitzsimmons was beating his one-on-one battles, and then eventually went into double teams. There's times where, Pat Narduzzi talked about during the week, Nakai Johnson has plays where he plays extremely well, and he had a number of great plays in this game. Gotten behind the backfield, too, created pressures, but also, too, had a couple tackles for loss. But there's a lot of times we're just getting pushed around. Isaiah Neal's in that same way. He gets upfield. He's able to make a couple good plays, but then there's plays where he's just getting mauled up front, and they run the ball for 6 to 9 yards on first down. You just can't have that happen. That can't be a consistent realm. Overall, both teams in the game had 23 first downs. Third down efficiency. Pitt was 9 of 16. Very, very good in this game. Something that they've really struggled with is third down efficiency. 9 out of 6 is pretty damn good. North Carolina was 5 of 15. Fourth down efficiency. Pitt was 1 of 1. North Carolina, 2 of 6. North Carolina on a number of plays. I think Mac Brown did a horrible job where they were in the red zone and they really had a chance to put up points. They didn't do it. They went for it on fourth down. They were 2 of 6 on fourth down. Total yards in the game. Pitt had 520 yards of total offense. Absolutely spectacular day. North Carolina had 416 yards. Overall, when it comes to time of possession, it was really 50-50. Pitt had the ball 29 minutes, and then North Carolina had for 30 minutes. Both teams had 5 penalties. One, Pitt had it for 43 yards. North Carolina had it for 50 yards. That was crazy in itself. But overall, it's a win for Pitt. And for the majority of the game, they had the game really intact. It was really never in question. Pitt took the lead, obviously, at the end of the third quarter. It was a tie football game. But after that, in the fourth quarter, Pitt really took it to a next level and really had himself to the point where they really just put it away and got themselves a 10-point victory, certainly covered the spread, everything that you want to see. So really overall, I mean, there's more good than bad. That is for a fact. And again, I'm critical. The media can be critical. It's part of the job as a media. But just sometimes a lot of the stuff that they put out there is just so negative. It's kind of ridiculous and redundant at times, and reasons why I just can't be on with a lot of what they do. I personally understand, hey, the defensive line needs to be more consistent. It can't be up and down like the way it's been. The run blocking needs to be better for the Pitt offensive line. I thought in this game, though, there was plenty of great pockets for Eli Holstein. Had a couple pressures. It's going to happen. Nobody's perfect. But overall, it was a great clean pocket for the majority of the football game. I think the running attack still needs to be a lot better in terms of being, more 50-50 in terms of being a two-dimensional type of football team. But overall, and crazy to say, Ben Saul's money as usual. And then, I thought Caleb Junko had a good game as a punter. No crazy mistakes there. So, I'm critical of them where the D-line, I was a little upset. The D-line out of placement a number of different times where they had big chunk plays, moving the ball down the football field. Offensive line having a couple penalties over and over again there in the second quarter. I thought the run blocking was a little bad at times. But at the end of the day, they did what they needed to do. And guess what? 4 of the 5 games, they scored over 30 points. It's more than last year already. And only told him in 5 games, not even half the year. So overall, I have to be happy with a lot of stuff. I can't wait for the offense to click on all cylinders. I agree, but hey, if this isn't all cylinders, I'm good with this too. I hope the country club alums don't show up. I don't know what that means, John. I thought the defensive line played much better, seemed to have more pressure from breakthrough between the guards. Was that your take also? Obviously, going through a number of stuff here. They had more pressure in the second half. I thought in the first half, it was just abysmal. Guys weren't winning their one-on-one battles. Even the defensive ends, the defensive tackles, I thought they actually started to run a little bit better in the first half. But then the second half, you saw a lot more pressure. I think that the second half, there were clearly adjustments. And again, Charlie Partridge is not here anymore. I think that's a big loss to what people really haven't put into place. But also, too, the majority of these guys overall, Nick James, Sean Fitzsimmons, Francis Breu, they're all young guys. Sincere Edwards, young guy. Chief Borders, young guy. Jimmy Scott, young guy. I mean, they're all young players. They need time to develop. We're really throwing them in there at this point. Sincere Edwards, a guy who continues to get better as the weeks go on, is only a true freshman still. I think that has to be put into a lot of places as well. But at the same time, though, Isaiah Neal, redshirt freshman, they just have a lot of stuff to learn yet. And I think that, you're going to have to deal with the ups and downs of the defense. But it's very strange just to see like a Pat Narduzzi defense, but that kind of struggles with stopping the run. But at the same time, though, Pitt fans, we've had a lot of good defensive tackles. I mean, just not everyone's going to be Kalijah Cansey. Not everyone's going to be Jalen Twyman. Not everyone's going to be Rashad Weaver. Not everyone's going to be Patrick Jones. Not everyone's going to be a Juan Price. Just the names go on and on and on. The list of players that have really come through this system and have really just dominated. I mean, not every guy's going to be like that. Sometimes it takes time with a lot of these guys, and they're young guys. So, I mean, at the end of the day, be critical, but understand it's a young group. And also, too, Charlie Partridge is not here. So it's an adjustment period. Kevin, 100% ranked again. We are ranked again under Pat Narduzzi. Again, it's at one point in time throughout the 10 years, 7 times we've been ranked through those 10 years. So that's quite an achievement itself. Obviously, in a number of those years, we did not finish ranked because of bad losses. That kind of stuff will happen. I think James and Fitzsimmons will help the D-line. The D-end is still worrisome. Matlack reminds me so much of Nate Temple. I think Nate Temple, to be honest with you, is kind of like a little bit better than Nate Matlack, to be quite honest with you. And who knows? Maybe we see a name pop up out of nowhere that's back in the defensive line rotation here pretty soon. Underlooked, asking defense to play more snaps with shorter breaks with new offense, probably affecting the pass rush. Played noticeably better after drives where the offense held the ball for 4+ minutes. Vince, this is a great point. To everyone asking too, our offense is going so fast at a rapid rate. It is understandable that we are on the field a lot more. If you take out 2 or 3 of those possessions, they're under 330 yards of total offense, which is a good day at the office. So overall, this is a great point, Vince, that the defense is on the field more. I mean, we are scoring sometimes in 1 to 2 minutes, 30 seconds. This game was a little bit longer in terms of possessions, but overall, you still had possessions where you're out there for a minute, you're out there for 2 minutes at most sometimes, and then you're back on the football field. That's just an understandable and a rate that we are at currently. So that's a very good point. So sometimes you can't judge the defense on that range too. So there's a middle ground to both of it. Loving the season so far, but I'm still concerned. Why doesn't it seem like Gavin Bartholomew is really being used? He is not as good as we all thought he would be. William, to be honest with you, there's a lot of playmakers on this team. One of the questions I'm always asked is about this stuff right here is Gavin Bartholomew. I understand wanting to get him more involved, but if there are guys covering him or trying to cover him more on the outside or even over the middle, because he is, no matter what people say, he is a guy that people were focused on. I mean, heck, Mac Brown, to this point, I would say that, really Gavin hasn't had his breakout game yet. The first player that they talked about to look after was Eli Holstein. The second one was Gavin Bartholomew. Just everyone knows Gavin Bartholomew. And sometimes he's getting a lot more attention. That's why Desmond Reed is getting a lot more touches. Kanate Mumfield's getting a lot of touches. Kenny Johnson's getting a lot of touches. Sensory Lee. Now that stuff's starting to open up, I expect Gavin Bartholomew to get a lot more looks. Also, too, Gavin Bartholomew would have had a touchdown if that pass was not deflected at the line of scrimmage in the first quarter. So that would have been one right there. But you just got to continue to be creative. But at the same time, though, I'm not too concerned yet because we're 5-0. We have over 500 yards of total offense 4 out of the last 5 games. I mean, that is freakish. We are putting up points at a high rate. We're putting up points. We're putting up major yardage. So right now, would I like Gavin Bartholomew to be more involved? Because obviously I like the kid. Obviously, I think he's a great tight end. He will be in the NFL next year. Yes. But at the same time, though, you got to do what you have to do to win football games. And right now, we're winning football games. And there's guys that are really covering Gavin for a lot of majority of the time. He's a very big possession wide receiver, guy who really moves well, and in terms of being able to run down the football field, the seam. Heck, they're even lining up Gavin Bartholomew on the outside. I think so. All in all, it's working together here and there. Couldn't care less about the rankings right now. The pretenders fall out of the top 25 in mid-late October, and the contenders can't be ignored. Just stay the course. Yep, the great thing about us, Will, at this point, we're not playing football for Pitt, so we can talk about that kind of stuff. And while I'm not, I am not by no means all pumped up because we haven't achieved anything like Pat Narduzzi has said. This is a big moment for Pitt. This is a very big game coming up this week. I expect Pitt fans to show up in drones for Cal. I had a person reach out to me on the away side. Obviously, myself, I'm a season ticket holder. A friend of mine who's a season ticket holder on the away side said, "Hey, Jay, because I was going to get extra tickets, there's not as many as there was last week." So people are already buying tickets. It's going to be a very good game. Cal's coming off a heartbreaking loss where they blew, a 25-point lead against Miami. They got to travel across the country. At this point, I expect, Pitt to really get after it this week to go 6-0, take care of business. It's going to be a beautiful day. I love walking around on Saturday mornings and, Saturday afternoons to meet a lot of new people. It should be a great atmosphere. And also, too, the AP Top 25, it's also great for notoriety, but also, too, Will, it's great for recruiting. You are able to sell this kind of stuff to recruits right now that are looking at Pitt. Pitt is still recruiting right now. Pitt also has people committed to Pitt right now. They want to keep those guys. You want to be able to tell recruits, hey, we're in the top 25 right now. And then the college football playoff committee will then put a top 25 together. Pitt's going to be in that top 25 too, even if they have one loss. Pitt's not going to go undefeated this year. I got news for people. They're not going to go undefeated. There are some football teams on this schedule that I think are better football teams and just more well-rounded football teams. But I really do see Pitt having a real possibility of going 10-2. A real possibility of 10-2. Their hardest game to this point for me is going to be the Clemson game at home. I expect Pitt fans to show up for that game. The away game at SMU is going to be a difficult football game. They're playing at a high level now. They made a quarterback change. They're now in the top 25. We don't face Miami, but Clemson's number 10 overall in the country. That's going to be a tough football game. That's going to be tough. But overall, the fans have to keep supporting this football team. It's a massive effect of what's going on right now. The mojo and the drive and the charisma is currently on Pitt's side right now. It's got to stay that way. You got to continue to build it that way, because right now it's a massive level and it's only going to help us. And I think right now, honestly, too, on a national level, people are seeing when the top 25 are breaking records. This kind of stuff is good for the program overall. And it looks really, really good right now. And Pitt's playing a really good brand of football, an exciting brand of football. Heck, even Marquez Williams reached out to me and said, Jay, it's fun to watch Pitt offense again after 2 years. I said, I agreed. Let's see here. My man Derek, Matlack got ragdolled all game long. He's too small. He'd be a small for a high school DN. Our D line is a liability. I'd say so right now. That's probably the weakest point in the defense. And again, through honesty, they had a number of plays in this game where they looked really good, especially bringing pressure, especially in the third and fourth quarter where they were able to get off the field on 4 downs, turnover on downs multiple times. North Carolina was 2 of 6 on 4th down. They were great defensive stands, stopping the run through the pass. But I agree with you. There are a number of plays where you're just like, what the hell is going on? And just Matlack did not have a good day overall. I hope the fans who hate cheering don't show up. I hope we have a good atmosphere against Cal on Saturday. Yeah, at the end of the day, though, I hope they show up because it only helps us even more. Because all I care about is people being there. Deriza Sports Discourse on Twitter. Damn, need that hat in visor form for Southern grads. Oh, the need that hat in visor form for Southern grads. I don't know if he means this. I don't know, but I would imagine a visor would look really good too. 2 reasons Bart isn't getting the ball. He has to stay in and help block. Number 2, he's not as good as Pitt fans think he is. He's a solid college player, but not great. To an extent, I agree, but to an extent, I don't. I think Bartholomew actually is a really good football player, but right now, when you just have so many different players that are just – I told people last year that Pitt had players. Pitt had skilled position players. Pitt had players that are really good. It's proven to a fact. Just schematically, we were just abysmal last year. We were a horrible football team because schematically, we were bad. Quarterback play, we were absolutely embarrassing. I think that maybe, people might look at Bart and say, he's not as good. He's not as good, but right now, I think overall, he's damn good. So I think it's something to watch. We're going to see David O get some reps at the end. David Obajobi, yeah. He's got to get better. If he's not on the football field, that means he's not practicing well. That's what that means. So he's got to play better and he's got to practice better. I was cautiously optimistic about Matlack, but thought his lack of size would be a liability, and it's played out this way so far this year. Yeah, he just hasn't developed. I think, and again, nothing against Tim Doust, but overall, there has to be a question mark there. He's not. It didn't matter who we were going to get. He's just not Charlie Partridge, and Charlie Partridge coaches a different way. Would it be different with Charlie? I don't know. But Charlie's been known to develop guys into a certain realm. Guys, if you have not done so yet, and you're over on X, we have right now 500 people watching the podcast live. Head over to YouTube, like this video, subscribe, and it'll help us continue to grow the channel. It's been a tremendous thing so far, so I really appreciate it. Let me see here. Gavin is an outstanding tight end, in my opinion. I think he's helping our OTs, in my opinion, especially the right side. Will, to Derek's point, I mean, he is a lot in whenever he's blocking. He is blocking a good bit of the time. Jake Overman's helping block a lot. I think he's been a tremendous blocker for what he's been able to do. So it's been good. Overall, I think we really need to understand just how well Pitt's doing at this point. Coming off a 3-9 season, not a lot of optimism. This next phase for me, I think that Pitt fans need to really understand is, Pitt fans have to understand that they got to support the team at this point. This week is going to be huge. We have Cal and then another bye week. Okay. People need to show up for the Cal game. I mean, this is a big, big game. Cal's going to be coming across the country. I think that's a massive blow to them. Coming off a hard loss against Miami, that's even a bigger blow to them. If Pitt can go 6-0 and then have another bye week, it's a massive effect. So at that point, you'll have 6 games in, but after that bye week, you'll have 8 weeks overall in college football. The college football playoff will come out, and the new rankings will come out. If you can be in that ranking, you're in this going forward. And let me tell you guys, the schedule is extremely tough going forward. I still think Louisville's a good football team. They're on the schedule. Syracuse is a good football team. They only have 1 loss. They're on the schedule. SMU, they only have 1 loss. They're in the top 25. They're on the schedule. Clemson has 1 loss. It was to Georgia. They're on the schedule. Boston College, they lost to Virginia, but Virginia's a good football team. So I think we've got Cal, Syracuse, SMU, Louisville, Clemson, Boston College. There's 6 games right there. I think Virginia too. Virginia has 1 loss. So overall, like I said before, the ACC is not a walk in the park. It's just not a walk in the park at this point. And I think right now they're playing at a high level. But again, to Will's point, yeah, they've proven nothing. As fans, it's fun for us. We get to talk about it. We get to have that conversation, how great it is, and to have that discourse, and it's great. But overall, I think at this point, this football team deserves our support. And I expect overall there to be 50,000 to 60,000 at Acrisure Stadium coming up this weekend. It's going to be a beautiful day. The more and more people I talked to that reached out to me, hey, I went out and bought extra tickets. Hey, man, I have friends that are coming up from Florida, Houston. They're coming up to the game. I got people driving from, me personally, I have people driving from Ohio. It's going to be a tremendous football game coming up. It's going to have one hell of an atmosphere. And just Pitt being 5-0 for the first time since 1991 is absolutely insane. Pitt's on the verge of having another special season. 2021 was a special season. 11-2 season. Or like I said, they finished 11-3. 11-3 season, an ACC title, a New Year's Six bowl game. If they go to the ACC title game this year and lose, I still think they get into the college football playoff with an extra bowl berth. The extra, obviously, at large bids. There's just so much on the table, and here we are through really 5 games. Those conversations will start to come up in 3 weeks. Where if Pitt's 8-0, you might have you're going to have that conversation. The Clemson game is going to be huge. These games overall are just going to be impressive. And again, you got to give Pat Narduzzi credit for how he picked Cade Bell. Cade Bell has just been a mastermind at this point of getting the ball to certain guys and creating space and getting them open. It's been a tremendous thing to watch overall. The defense is definitely the problem. I analyzed many errors, and statistically, we should have won by 20. I hope it gets better. Changes need to be made on defense. I mean, again, yes and no. They gave up 17 points, but they gave up 400 yards. So if they were supposed to win by 20 points, that means that the offense should have scored more points, in which I agree they should have scored more points. So it's a little bit of both. It's not just the defense. Don't want to look ahead, but if Pitt and Clemson went out until November 16th, college game day at Pittsburgh, bung. This is a very good question. I actually agree with this. I do believe at that point, if Clemson wins out, they're a top 10 football team. If Pitt wins out, they'll be a top 15 football program. I bet you it's going to be a conversation that they come here. November 16th, what is that? Game 10 for Pitt? So that's like in 5 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. They play 4 more games. That could potentially happen. But, at this point, like Will said, playing one game at a time, but this is a great time for Pitt. But the players, not the fans, the players need to stay focused on what they're doing going forward. Focus on the football game at hand, what's going on going forward, and win those football games. This is a tremendous opportunity for Pitt to take care of, to be really successful at what they're doing and having an opportunity to really jump on board and be successful. This is a game. Just this whole season has been just unreal. And again, there was a guy early on Twitter, Coach Wazoo or something, told me Pitt wouldn't win 9 games in 2 years. They've already got 5. So it tells you how this thing changes because of NIL. And if you're not an Alliance 412 member, you have got to join Alliance 412. Guys, there is a lot of talent on this football team. It's going to cost money. And I know that the bigger donors are starting to hype up. They're starting to get there. There's corporate sponsorships. But overall, if just every season ticket holder got on board, we would generate over $6 million in NIL. And that's the basic $20 a month. I mean, it's that significant. Pitt really has the resources. It has the leadership in place to win football games and be successful for the long term. It really does. And I think that Pitt's actually going to have again, I don't know any names at this point. I haven't heard anything. They've kept it tight to the vest. A search firm's been involved. But the AD hire, I expect them to make the right AD hire. And again, I could be wrong, but for what they're looking for in terms of revenue, football number 1 in terms of university revenue, they're going to make a good hire, in my opinion. And I think that right now, Pitt's in a good trajectory. The overall, the athletic department in the fall here has just been through the roof successful. And I think just that now is a time for Pitt fans to get involved. It's time for Pitt fans to jump on board and subscribe to Alliance 412. Put your money where your mouth is. I'm a 412 subscriber, $41.20. You don't have to do 41.20. Do the 1976, last time we won a national championship. This season has the potential to just catapult Pitt into another direction in terms of the ACC, in terms of a national level, in terms of conference realignment. There's a lot of stuff going on at Pitt, and I think just right now the level of just positivity, the overall results. The results are showing Pitt can compete at a high level. Pitt can compete not just in the ACC but on a national scale. Pitt was 2-0 against the Big 12 this year. Now is the time to cook. Now is the time to show your support for the university and this football team to go to the next level and to take off. That's just my opinion. That's why I do it. Nothing against Tim Dowse at all, but we're missing Partridge right now. Will, again, I agree. Just have to get 3% better every day. Amen. 1-0 every week. The more fans joining Alliance 412, even at the basic level, the more young talent we can keep and develop and attract. Again, just at the lowest level, we can generate $6 million in NIL revenue. I mean, and that's not even counting the large donors yet. So you're probably getting towards almost that $10 million range where you're now towards the top of the ACC. It's all there for the taking. And again, shout out to Alliance 412. Shout out to Mike McGlynn. And the guys over, Mike McGlynn separate, but Alliance 412. John Pelusi, Jeff Goldberg, Chris Bickle, Doug Whaley, the vice president, executive vice president at Alliance 412. Doug's been doing a great job, a tremendous Pitt man. Just everything's there. Your alums. Lewis Riddick is doing a tremendous job on a national scale. Doran Dickerson's doing a tremendous job on a national scale. LaShawn McCoy doing a tremendous job on a national scale. Aaron Donald doing great things on a national scale. Jordan Whitehead, Darrell Revis. It's just all there. And the amount of people that are outside Pitt that tell me that, man, Pitt has got a wealth of tradition. Pitt has a wealth of knowledge. Pitt has a wealth of resources. And again, like I've said before, and I've said it a million times, I am more positive than ever Pitt's going to have their own stadium, because I think at this next level of college football, having your own place is going to be important. Back in 2000, the Steelers needed Pitt to get on board with Heinz Field for them to get Heinz Field. They duped Pitt. Pitt should have rebuilt Pitt Stadium. It should have been a no-brainer. You could have put a Peterson Event Center anywhere. They didn't. It is what it is. But I do see in 2026 and beyond that they're going to have their own stadium. There was a feasibility study. Obviously, it got out a little bit that Heather Lyke spent over $100,000 on a model for an actual diagram of a new Pitt Stadium. Apparently, it looked incredible. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm more positive than ever that Pitt's moving in the right direction and they're doing moves for football. Pitt's not going to go backward. Pitt's going to go forward with these special decisions moving forward, and I think it's important. Again, it's just so important to subscribe to Alliance 412. Cal had a demonizing loss. Pitt needs to jump on them early. Amen. They're coming off a horrific loss where they blew it up. They got to win this football game going forward. You can go 6-0 and go into a bye week again, your last bye week, get completely healthy, get everybody ready for the next 6-game run. Do it. There's a major opportunity right now on a national level. The college football playoff is something that's going to be talked about for the next 6-7 weeks. If Pitt continues to win and takes care of business, if they stay focused on what they need to do and get better as the weeks go on, because every team that's winning is getting better. If Pitt wants to win going forward, they have to get better. They have to be better than last week. They have to be better this week. And then next week, they'll have to be better than this previous week. It's got to happen. Cal kicks off and meeting the schedule. Great opportunity for Pitt to take the next step and stay the course. Amen. We should buy Highmark Stadium. No, not at all. That would be absolutely horrible, as a matter of fact. That would actually be, like, horrible. Like, that would be the worst area to put that thing. That would, like that would be like, you couldn't even fit a 45,000-seat stadium there. I'm just saying, they've done a feasibility study. It'll definitely be out. Darren Barnhart, what do you think of Pitt's connecting a new stadium, Arch Shore Stadium, have the Steelers on one side, Pitt Stadium on the other side, and what about the other site of an old Century 3 Mall? First off, yeah, nothing's going to old Century 3 Mall. That's like way too far. That's definitely off the charts. The other one, Acrisure Stadium, have Steelers on one side, Pitt on the other side. I know that stuff will never happen. All I know is they're looking to separate itself, whether the Steelers move, because they're going to build a new stadium or they're going to renovate the stadium. It's going to happen. I also expect the Steelers not to stay on the south side. I think they build their own practice facility, a lot like what the other NFL teams are doing. I expect Pitt to take over the other half, really have the entire south side to themselves, probably in about 3 or 4 years. I expect those moves to happen. 2030 is coming up quick, and that's when the lease is over. And I know for a fact there are going to be some major renovations, and it's going to be massive. Pitt is covering all their games. Amen. What do you think of the trade-off of having the entire south side for Pitt and losing the Steelers as a neighbor for recruiting? I mean, it's great because you're there. You get to see, like, obviously the NFL players, and the players certainly do talk. It's a talking point. But it really wouldn't. I mean, you look at Pitt's overall recruiting right now, I don't think it would have a major effect. It's not like every player's picking Pitt because they're just playing next to the Steelers. They're picking Pitt because of one, NIL is number one. The opportunity to play, relationships are number 2 and 3. So I really wouldn't think it would affect it that much. Guys, we're about 50 minutes in. Obviously, I want to let some of you guys go. Obviously, Sunday Night Football is going to be getting on. I'm going to let you guys get some time, obviously, because I know some of you guys are Steeler fans. I am not, but I know you guys are, and I want to hold you guys here. Guys, if you've not done so, share this video on Facebook, Pitt Panther Fanatics on all your Facebook. Share it with your friends. Leave in the comments section, what did you like about the game this past week? Do you think Pitt wins next week? What do you want to see Pitt going forward? Also, too, subscribe to the channel and like this video right now. It's very simple. Just like the video. It helps out the algorithm. Guys, again, I cannot thank you enough for another great episode of Talking College Football. Guys, I can't even tell you. Stu, thank you so much. Awesome chat as always. Guys, the Sunday conversation has blown up to massive proportions. Again, overall, at one point tonight, we had 800 people watching the show live between X and YouTube. I can't thank you guys enough. This has been incredible. The questions are always tremendous. And I can't thank you enough. There's going to be more videos out this week about the ACC, ranking the ACC, but also, too, I'll be putting out a preview of Cal. That'll be another one. So, again, this Sunday conversation has blown up because of you, so I cannot thank you enough. Guys, as always and forever, hail to Pitt and hail to the ACC. I'll see you guys next time.